First news is Arne Slot just found winning formula that could deliver Liverpool the Champions League. Second news is Liverpool owners FSG make dramatic U-turn on multi-club model after looking at 25 teams. Don't blink, things are moving fast at Liverpool. Welcome to the channel, let's get straight into today's big news. It could have been 10. That was what Hugo Ekitike said after Liverpool set up a rematch with PSG this week by demolishing Galatasaray 4-0 in the Champions League. And while there have been a few false dawns already this season, and it would therefore be unwise to think that this is definitively a corner turned, this was clearly a much better attacking performance. It was the first time that Arne Slot had put this particular starting XI together, and it looked much more fluent. Liverpool racked up more than 5 expected goals, and though not every team will be as open and willing to leave gaps for the Reds to exploit as Galatasaray was, the patterns of play and clever combinations that were being woven have not been seen often this term. Milos Kerkez put in his best performance of the season, the kind of showing that most people expected when he arrived from Bournemouth last summer. The $54 million, £40 million man was everywhere on the day, putting in tackles and never losing his ferocious appetite to win the ball back and then drive forward. On the opposite flank, Jeremy Frimpong was the widest player again, a logical move for a player who is something of a halfway house between a full-back and a winger, and Mohamed Salah moved inside. On the left, Florian Wirtz was drifting and popping up all over the place, with Hugo Ekitike knitting things together in front, at least when he got into his groove in the second half. The forward line was closer together and closer to goal. The midfield, crucially with Dominik Szoboszlai in his best role, looked a lot more compact, and the fullbacks were pivotal. I think tonight is not about tactics, it's mainly about the work they've put in, the support they got from the fans, and then, of course, tactics can help, Slot insisted. But this work rate, this intensity, this combination of play is always more important than tactics. Though the Dutchman was keen to praise the fans' impact, Slot's setup saw the attacking components click into gear as well. And even if Salah doesn't make the trip to the Amex Stadium because of the injury that forced him off, a similar system has to be implemented again. We've played this tactic before, Frankfurt away, Inter Milan away, and some other games, but usually this season then we've got a player injured. We couldn't do it again because then we miss out on a certain type in a certain position, Slot continued. It's not as simple as you think to say, okay, if you can bring this tonight, you can bring this effort every single game you have. There's an opponent to play against, there's a style of play. There are so many factors of why we could bring tonight what we could bring. I think it's fair to say for me, especially for all of you because you are following Liverpool so many times, that Anfield and the players can also rise to the occasion. Though Slot played the impact of the system down against Brighton this week, and probably beyond that too, this has to be the template. Getting all the key parts playing in their best roles and having square pegs in square holes was a formula that worked. And in the race for the Champions League places, there is no time to lose in Liverpool finally finding some momentum. Second news is Liverpool owners FSG make dramatic U-turn on multi-club model after looking at 25 teams. Fenway Sports Group FSG has moved away from plans to buy a second soccer team alongside Liverpool despite extensive research on identifying potential options. That is according to The Athletic, who report that after possible deals for Bordeaux, Malaga and Getafe didn't go anywhere, in addition to the potential of having a minority stake in AS Monaco, FSG has cooled its interest in moving towards a multi-club model. When Michael Edwards returned to the fold in 2024, a key part of his remit was to identify and eventually run a second team. It was thought this was a key appeal for the 46-year-old in coming back to work with the Anfield side. One of the biggest factors in my decision is the commitment to acquire and oversee an additional club growing this area of their organization, Edwards said 2 years ago. I believe that to remain competitive, investment and expansion of the current football portfolio is necessary. Multi-club ownership means sharing resources and having a place for young players to develop, similar to how Chelsea and Strasbourg operate, while Liverpool has long held admiration for the Red Bull Group. A move to acquire a stake in Monaco would have been complicated due to a lack of clarity from UEFA over whether both the League One side and Liverpool could play in the Champions League at the same time. Similar issues have unfolded elsewhere, like when Lyon owner John Textor exited Crystal Palace last year amid concerns over UEFA competitions. Multi-club ownership is controversial, but the view taken by many leading clubs around the world is that they can't afford to be left behind given the advantages that it can bring. Post-Brexit, English clubs cannot sign players under the age of 18. In 2021, a transfer deal for Stefan Bajcetic was rushed through just in time. Owning another club in the European Union, though, can allow for the rules to be circumvented. There is also a benefit in ensuring that you have greater control over how loan players are used. There has been no movement on the addition of another soccer club to the FSG roster since December. Reports this week have linked sporting director Richard Hughes with a move to the Saudi Pro League side Al Hilal. Edwards, Hughes and Arne Slot will all only have 1 year left on their contracts this summer. Another news is PSG manager Luis Enrique has already made it clear what he thinks of Arne Slot and Liverpool. Liverpool will take on PSG in the quarter-finals of the Champions League in a rematch of the last 16 tie in 2024-25 that saw Arne Slot's side lose on penalties. A year ago, Liverpool was on the verge of becoming Premier League champion but was hammered in the first leg at the Parc des Princes, somehow winning 1-0 via a Harvey Elliott goal after a goalkeeping masterclass from Alisson Becker. After PSG knocked Liverpool out last season, it went on to win the trophy, beating Inter Milan 5-0 in the final, which was held in Munich. It also eliminated Arsenal and Aston Villa en route. Ahead of PSG taking on Liverpool last season, head coach Luis Enrique made his feelings clear on the tie, with the Reds well on their way to winning the league at that stage. If we look at Liverpool, which in theory is in a transition year, they have a top-level coach and are one of the best teams in Europe, Enrique said ahead of last year's last 16 tie. With their results, they are at the top of the standings, etc. But I believe we will be in the competition and we will give them a hard time. The goal is to fight until the end. This time around, Liverpool is far from in the same shape that it was, even if the win over Galatasaray on Wednesday was a major step in the right direction. The Reds are in the mix for Champions League qualification ahead of next season but still have plenty of work to do on that front. Slot's men travel to Brighton in the early kickoff slot on Saturday. I think occasionally we have been showing and playing good games but not consistently and on a regular basis, and it's been frustrating for all of us and for the fans as well, Virgil van Dijk said. But the only thing we can do is keep going, try to improve, and every time you are out there represent the badge in the best way possible. It was a good night. We have been having good performances this season and we haven't been able to build on it the next time. It is very hard, but that's the hardest thing in life, doing it each and every 3 or 4 days. If you do that, you become successful. There's a big chance you become successful. That's what you strive for, that's what we had last year, and that's what we try to reach. But you need multiple factors to go your way, and now don't get carried away. This was a demanding game physically and mentally, and it is down to us to do all the right things to be ready for an early kickoff at Brighton, because Brighton away is always difficult.